What's up, Triumph Nation? This past week taught us it's not just about who wins, it's about how they get there. Let's break it down.
Yeah, man, let's get into it. It was a big week in football. Excited to dive in.
Yeah, let's start off with this past weekend of the CFP.
Oklahoma versus Alabama. Alabama was able to get the W, 34-24 victory. What were your immediate thoughts?
I wasn't able to watch the whole game. I saw more of the second half, so I ended up seeing Alabama's 17-point comeback victory. Really, it just shows to me their defense really tightened things up in the second half, and Ty Simpson had that offense clicking and rolling, and Callan DeBoer had that offense rolling and the defense rolling. So I'm not surprised about them winning. We're so surprised of how they won. What about you?
Yeah, I definitely think it was one of the better games over the weekend. You touched on it. Them coming back from a 17-point deficit is awesome, especially in that environment. Ty Simpson, 2 touchdowns, 232 yards. That's about all I got to say on it. It was a really good win, and I'm looking forward to that next round versus Indiana, so it's going to be a good one.
Absolutely. Next up, we had Ole Miss and Tulane, and that went exactly how everybody in the nation and in the country thought it would. Ole Miss pretty much dominated every facet and every little thing in that game. Their offense, their defense, their special teams, coaching was better. And then that has nothing to do with the fact that Tulane's not a good football program. They're a good football program. They don't have the type of recruits and the type of athletes that Ole Miss does. So not a shocker there.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't a surprise. It really just showed how there's levels to this. Chambliss had a really good outing on this one, 282 yards, 1 touchdown, and it's really exciting to look forward into that next round, seeing them going against Georgia next. It wasn't surprising at all.
There's one thing that the camera crews did really good on this past weekend was showing all the drones at every stadium and every game. I think there was a cool shot with Chambliss, and then he was looking out towards the stadium and in the field, and then above the stadium was Ole Miss spelled out with drones. So I thought that was really cool also. Oregon did that, and it's just a cool thing to see also. Just builds to the CFP atmosphere.
I completely agree. It's like every year, not only are they changing the playoff format and all this other stuff, they're just getting levels and levels better each year to try and get more fan engagement, some cooler things to look at, better halftime performances, all the stuff. So you definitely love the way the CFP is heading for sure.
Then we had a knockdown, drug out Miami and A&M. That was probably the most surprising game to me. Not the outcome, but really just how the game played out. It was super windy, so there was a handful of missed field goals. It felt like the wind just completely took the football out of the stadium. And then that Miami defense really dominated the whole game. A&M, yeah, they had some nice drives, but they weren't able to capitalize off those nice drives. And then that front seven for Miami just made it living hell for Marcel Reed the whole game. He just looked uncomfortable. So not surprised that Miami won, although I did pick A&M, so I'm eating my own crap right now. But Miami deserved it. You got Michael Irving and you got Mario Cristobal. They had an interesting post-game interaction, but that's just Michael Irving. He is a piece of work.
Yeah, it was hilarious seeing him on the sideline with the Texas A&M jersey on the trash can and putting the belt to it. Him crawling on all floors, barking on the sideline. Like, how can you not win after seeing him on the sideline doing that crazy stuff? So it's definitely interesting. For Miami, Mark Fletcher Jr. had 17 carries, 172 yards. That definitely was their bread and butter in that game. You said it, wind played a huge factor. Miami had 3 missed field goals. Beck had a season low of 103 passing yards. So that was pretty much the tale of the game. It was definitely, even with the low scoring, one of the more exciting ones. And it's interesting to see how Miami's going to shape up going into the next round here.
I saw something online where this person tweeted about how we've been complaining about seeing JMU and Tulane making the CFP, but Miami and A&M gave us that crapshoot of an offensive performance on Saturday, so I thought that was kind of funny.
There's always going to be critics. I mean, we talked about it a little bit last week, but at the end of the day, nothing's going to be perfect, so I'm just glad we're getting the product we are now. Regardless, I love it better than the 4-game playoff, so I can't be too mad at it.
That night, Oregon and JMU. The first quarter pretty much went about the way we expected it would. It was super hyped up. A lot of jitters and a lot of high energy, it seemed. Just that's CFP anyways. JMU was showing a lot of different formations. I don't think they had the same formation once in the first quarter, maybe even the second quarter. So they were really trying to give Oregon everything they could handle, but very happy that Oregon won. The first half that's the kind of standard that we have at Oregon, that first half, and then the second half got carried away a little bit, and I guess we just downplayed and got complacent. And for the second half, it was embarrassing. So hopefully Dan Lanning has that crew ready to roll and fix the mistakes that were made in that second half.
Yeah, that second half, JMU scored 4 touchdowns. That's not something you want to see heading to Texas Tech in the next round. But I got to throw some stats in there. Dante Moore, 313 yards, 4 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. You saw in the very beginning, in the first 2 minutes, them get that 41-yard touchdown pass to Jamari Johnson. And after that, there was pretty much no catching up. I wasn't completely glued to the second half. At the halftime, it was 34-6. So pretty much you could kind of guess how it turned out. I know as an Oregon fan, it wasn't as pretty as you wanted it to be. But at the end of the day, they get it done. And they've got a tall task ahead of them going into the next round.
I think that's going to be the most exciting, interesting game of the quarterfinals this coming week. Just because you got one top offense and then one top defense. You got the two strengths of these teams going head to head. So it'll be very interesting. It should be very entertaining. I'm really excited for that one. I'm really nervous for that one. So that'll lead us into the picks. You know who I'm picking for next week. I got Oregon all day, every day. I just have some concerns, hoping Oregon's offensive line can hold up against that front seven with Tech, because that front seven at Tech is just, they're monstrous, they're dangerous, and they're behemoths. I'm hoping our speed can kind of nullify that front seven, and then I'm hoping also that Dante Moore doesn't make silly mistakes. He can turn it around. If anybody can, I feel like he can. And then just containing Jacob Rodriguez.
At the end of the day, I do have to pick against you there. I am going to go ahead and roll with Jacob Rodriguez and the Texas Tech Red Raiders. I think they're going to be well rested, ready to play, and I see them coming out hard and fast. I mean, they play a physical style ball, especially on that defensive side, and that's what I'm looking at being the determining factor in this one. So that's who I'm looking at going into that one. What we're going to go over in these picks is going to be Alabama versus Indiana. What do you see going on there?
This one's kind of tough because logic says that Indiana should win this game. They have a top 10 offense and they have a top 10 defense, and they've just got so many playmakers on that team. Logic says Indiana's going to win, but there's just a part of me that thinks it's Alabama. They don't have Nick Saban. They don't have the players that they have had win championships, but Alabama has that pedigree. They've been there. They've done that for the past almost 20 years now, so it's really hard to bet against them. But if it's any time to bet against them, it would be now, because Indiana, they just seem super dominant. Ultimately, I feel like they are the best team in the country right now, and that's really hard to say when they're in the same conference as Oregon. I'm going to have to go with Indiana. As long as that offense can stay balanced and Mendoza doesn't make any mistakes, he continues to be that field general, I think they'll be fine, because I'm not worried about their defense. Their defense is going to do pretty much what they want. Who are you picking?
It's definitely a tough one. I love the personalities on Indiana. I love Fernando Mendoza. I love Kurt Signetti, everything he represents and what he's changed over there, the culture, the tenacity that they play with. But at the end of the day, I think strength of schedule plays a factor. I think experience plays a factor. A lot of these Alabama players, they've been there, they've done that. They've been expected to do that from the very beginning. And at the end of the day, I'm going to go ahead and roll with them. I'm going to go with Alabama, taking that one with a big upset. And who knows, I may be eating crow after January 1st, but only time will tell. I think they got a really good shot.
Here's another tidbit. Kurt Signetti, I think he might have a little bit more chip on his shoulders, because he was with Alabama however many years ago, 10 years ago, as a wide receiver coach, and they never promoted him. So if anybody could kind of twist that around and get your team fired up, that's going to be Siggy. But it's going to be a great game.
I know it's saying a lot with all the high caliber coaches out there, and I know it's early, but I'm going to go ahead and go out on a limb and say I think he's the best college football coach right now. Just to seeing what he's done in his previous stops and then what he's done now so early for Indiana. I mean, it's insane to get him to this spot where they are right now with the record that they have. Yeah, he's definitely, if I have a kid and I'm sending them to college and they have a choice of anywhere to go, I'm definitely leaning to sending them to be coached by him.
It's crazy. Just a few years ago, he was the head coach at JMU.
Definitely, when you hear his story, the stops he's gone through, and just what you said there at his time in Alabama, for him to get to this point, it's amazing to say the least. So that leads us
Absolutely.
into our next one. Got Ole Miss versus Georgia. Who are you picking there?
I'm going Georgia. I just think Georgia's going to be too much to handle for Ole Miss. Georgia's running game, if that continues to be a problem for the other team, then I don't see how there's a way Ole Miss gets back in this game if Georgia gets up early. Honestly, with that defense that Georgia has, if they continue to play tough, especially with that redshirt freshman that is starting at center for Ole Miss, if Kirby figures out something that works to get that redshirt freshman a little dazed and confused up front, that might spell problems for Ole Miss. So, yeah, Trinidad played and has played pretty well this season, especially as of late, and their running back K1 Lacey, if he continues to light it up, they might have a chance. But, yeah, I'm rolling with Georgia.
I agree with everything you said. I'm siding with you on that one. I'm going to roll with Georgia. Again, we talked about this with Alabama. They've been there. They've done that. They went back-to-back a couple years ago. I think they're just going to be able to pretty much steamroll this team. I don't think it's going to be close. I think it might be in the very beginning, but I think at the end of the day, Georgia's just going to pull away. And I definitely think Lane Kiffin being gone is going to play a huge factor in a big game like this. So you probably didn't see that at all in that first round, but I definitely think you're going to see it in this one.
This is where they're going to feel the loss of Lane Kiffin, I believe.
For sure. Well, that leads us into the next one, Miami versus Ohio State. What are you thinking?
I got Ohio State in this one. Ohio State has been struggling a little bit up front on their offensive line, especially against elite defenses. So when you at first sight, you just saw that front seven for Miami just completely dominate Texas A&M up front. But Ohio State's just a different breed. A&M has kind of come out of nowhere this year, and they were somewhat of a Cinderella team. Ohio State won the championship last year, and I don't see them slowing down, especially at this point. They got Jeremiah Smith, and then Carnell Tate out wide, and then you got Julian Sayin tossing him the ball. So if they can have a deep threat down the field, which I believe that they will, there's no way Miami's going to stop that. I just don't see that happening. Miami kind of got lucky this past week with the way that things turned out. So I don't think that luck's going to continue. I'm going Ohio State. I hate to say it, but I am.
Ohio State's just looked like a juggernaut this year. I'm going to go ahead and roll with them as well. But Miami did get the win this past weekend. It definitely wasn't perfect, and it wasn't at all times that pretty. So I think Ohio State's just going to have too much power on the outside, like you said. Jeremiah Smith, him being the X factor. Pretty much any team he's playing on, go ahead and write me down siding with that team. He's just a difference maker in my book, especially in these big games. And yeah, I'm rolling with Ohio State. Let's get into some NFL. Let's go ahead and touch on the Seahawks versus the Rams.
What a banger to start the Week 16 slate, huh?
Yeah, it definitely was a good one. Seahawks were able to pull the win in a 38-37 victory in overtime. Sam Darnold, 270 yards, 2 TDs. Kenneth Walker, 11 carries for 100 yards. They overcame a 16-point deficit to pull this one out the mud. Even with Puka Nacua on the other side getting 220 yards through the air, I mean, it definitely was a big, gutsy win for the Seahawks, and definitely when they needed it the most.
This game pretty much went the complete opposite of what I thought it would. I knew it was going to be a high-scoring game, just not the people that, were scoring the touchdowns and catching the balls and running the football were different than what I thought would happen. I thought Williams and Blake Corum were going to be the difference makers, but it ended up being Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet being the difference makers. Seahawks, their running game has not been anywhere this whole year, and then out of the blue, Week 16, they're popping off on a Thursday night against a division rival who is the number 1 seed. Who would have thought that? So the first half, everybody in Minnesota was like, yeah, see what we did? We caught a break. We knew we weren't going to sign Sam Darnold. Look at him now when you need him most. And then in that second half, and especially in the fourth quarter, it's like he took the red pill and he went crazy. It was a very exciting beginning to this Week 16.
Gotta love it. Next, let's get into Patriots versus Ravens. Patriots were able to pull off the win with a 28-24 score. What are your thoughts?
John Harbaugh. I don't know sometimes what him and Munkin are thinking, especially when you have King Henry who can tote the rock for you. But he was absent the last almost 13 minutes of the game, and you have to wonder why. Was he hurt? I don't think he's hurt. I haven't seen any reports. And then another thing you have to think about is, okay, well, he did fumble the ball earlier in the game, so maybe they're only saving grace to justifying why not playing him at all the last 13 minutes of the game is, oh, he's fumble prone. That has nothing to do with the fact that, Drake May, I think he should deserve the MVP this year just at the caliber he's been playing. And then this is his second year, so he's been balling. And you got Mike Vrabel. He's a player's coach. He's going to get everybody in that facility locked in, ready to roll, ready to fight for each other. So I'm not surprised about the Patriots winning. I'm surprised that they came back from a double-digit deficit late in the game to secure that win in Baltimore. John Harbaugh, he's not going anywhere. It's just, could he be losing it a little bit?
It's definitely been tough to justify the outcomes of the past couple of seasons, especially in the playoffs. I mean, it seems like they've got all the right pieces. You've got Derrick Henry, you've got Lamar Jackson. That should be enough no matter what you've got on the other side. So Drake May, like you said, go ahead and give him the MVP trophy. 380 yards, 2 touchdowns, minimal rushing attack, and Stephon Diggs 138 yards. He's still got some juice left in him for sure. That guy was all over the field. 12-3 record for the Patriots with Vrabel's first year. What more can you say? They're on the right track.
Who would have thought?
I definitely wasn't calling that ahead of the season for sure.
Let's talk about that Bears and Pack game. That was probably the most insane game of the week. Just how it started and played out and then how it ended was bizarre.
Bears were able to pull off the win in a 16-22 victory. Kind of like you said, it was definitely, I would say, the craziest game of the week. Ben Johnson and those guys, they've just been able to put it together. What were your thoughts on the ending?
I saw bits and pieces of the ending because it was on at the same time Oregon and JMU was on. So I was flipping back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. But to get an onside kick, how often does that happen? You don't see it hardly at all. It's one of the most interesting and fun and coolest things about football. And then you don't get to see it much, and for it to be a successful onside kick, come on. That's just, that in of itself pretty much makes the game. And then they went into overtime. I believe the Bears forced a turnover, so that gave the Bears offense a chance to go down and win it. And what other better way to win it than a 46-yard touchdown bomb to DJ Moore? That was just a dime of a pass right in the breadbasket. Only DJ Moore could put his hands on it. He grabbed it, hauled it in, and what a moment for the Bears and the Bears fans. This is something that they've been waiting for years.
Yeah, man. It's definitely, like we were just talking about the Patriots, that's not something I was calling at the beginning of the season from the Bears team. Them clinching the playoff spot this early in the season. And you've got to wonder if Micah Parsons, what difference he makes if he's in that game. Very close game. Caleb Williams, 250 yards, 2 touchdowns. You pretty much told the tale of the game, man. It was definitely a nail-biting performance by the Bears, and they were just able to make the key plays to make the difference. So
that's not all. This week was full of craziness and crazy games. That Steelers and Lions game, it did on a crazy note also.
Ending was crazy. Aaron Rodgers put on another serviceable performance. I almost wanted to say great, but he always just does, it seems like at this point in his career, just enough to get them the win. For 41, 266 yards, 1 touchdown. Jaylen Warren with 14 carries, 143 yards, 2 touchdowns. They were just able to outlast the Lions. I know there was that controversial negated touchdown for Amon-Ra St. Brown, but at the end of the day, I think the better team won, and they definitely deserve to be in the position they're in. Still fighting for that playoff spot, but they seem like they've got their swagger together. You saw Mike Tomlin, Aaron Rodgers, Cam Hayward strutting off the field together, pounding their chest. I mean, they're definitely putting the right things together at the right point in time. So I'm thinking they do enough to get that playoff spot, but I guess we'll see.
Just another example of how we don't know Jack, because who would have thought the Steelers would have been anything more than average, And then after his 2-year stint with the Jets, you're like, well, Maybe they could do something, but not anything like this. This is a whole nother level. They did go and get DK, so that's going to help open up the offense a little bit and stretch it out. But really, it was more, for me, what was the most surprising in that game was the fact that the Steelers' running game was more productive than the Lions' running game. Gibbs didn't do anything. Montgomery didn't do anything. It was all Gainwell and Warren who had all the glory. Gainwell had that amazing touchdown grab, heads-up play to end the first half. So, yeah, that Steelers team is looking a little dangerous right now, especially if that offense can continue to play at the level that they're playing at, because they're averaging like 25, 26 points a game. So that defense is stout enough, and that's even without TJ to keep them in games.
You said it, for them to be able to do what they're doing without TJ is amazing in itself, but now you find out they're going to have to do it for 2 games without DK Metcalf. Because of the incident that happened on the sideline with a fan, you heard the first reports come out that possibly there were some racial slurs that elicited that reaction, but then some more video comes out from people in the stands, and from what you can hear, it sounds like the guy's just saying his full government name to him, and apparently he wasn't too happy with that. I know we'll find out more, hopefully get some clearer footage and video, but it's not looking good for him after seeing the more recent videos that have come out. What are your thoughts?
He's going to be out like $1 million in just 2 games. That's my biggest reaction. Just something silly that could have been prevented, and he's out $1 million now. So,
well, sorry to interject there. He's out $40 million. He lost out on $40 million in guarantees to his contract for conduct detrimental to the league. I guess that was some language in his contract that he signed that I had saw. So unless that's fake, whatever I saw, that's got to be infuriating.
40 million?
Yeah. Apparently that language was in his contract.
Damn.
Yeah.
Hey, you call me whatever the hell you want. That's $40 million.
Yeah, for sure. And I don't know. You've got to think, if that's in your contract, that like, all right, I can talk shit back, but I'm going to keep my hands to myself at least. Again, this could be complete and utter bullshit with everything that's going around the internet. You never know it's real, but that's definitely something I saw. And if that's true, that's insane.
Well, let's get the conspiracy theory gears turning right now. I've seen reports of that same fan messing with him in Seattle. So what if that fan was given a little bit of information about his contract? What if part of his contract got leaked? I'm just thinking here. And he knew, if I can get in this guy's head, if I can get in DK's head, just have him touch me. This guy's out 40 mil. Because that guy was cheering. He was like super happy after the fact. Like, look what I did. So, I don't know. It's just crazy to me. I didn't know it was $40 million.
Yeah, so I've actually just backed it up. It's proof searching, and CBS Sports says the 2-game suspension for what the NFL terms conduct detrimental to the league now voids at least $45 million in future guaranteed money for the Pittsburgh Steelers wide receiver Metcalf. So that is real. It is $45 million. And yeah, if what you said, if even a portion of it is true, that he followed him and is intentionally picking on him, even if it's not for whatever the motives are, it doesn't matter. But if he's like continually picking on this dude, then I think there definitely needs to be some resolution to come to here, because that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. I don't care how much money you make. That's quite a bit.
That is a lot of money. And then it makes you wonder, here's another rabbit hole. How much, that's saving the Steelers $45 million.
Mm-hmm.
They're gonna do something like that in the dark, in the shadows.
I mean, I don't know
DK
if you
grab you and we'll save 45 mil.
Yeah, if you told me it was the Bengals, I'd probably be like, yeah, those cheap motherfuckers, they probably did that. But the Steelers, they've got a couple Super Bowls. You've got to think their money's right. So, but you never know. There's been crazier things that's happened. So
that's just wild to me. I didn't know it was that much. I'm still thinking about that.
Yeah, it's crazy, and it's crazy that that's in his contract. That's not something that I've heard before. I'm assuming if it's in his agent would have told him to sign off on it. If it wasn't, not with every player, but possibly with some that have had some more controversial moments. But again, Either way, 45 million lost. That's a $45 million mistake right there. And you just can't make those.
No, at all.
Let's go ahead and get into the Panthers versus the Bucks. Panthers were able to get the W, 23-20 victory. Bryce Young, 21 for 32, 191 yards, 2 touchdowns. Minimal rushing help. Teroa McMillan, 6 catches, 73 yards, 1 touchdown. That guy looks like a 2-3 year vet in his first year. So you love to see that. You love to see Bryce Young finally rising above all the haters, able to help pull this organization out of the mud, get them into playoff contention. And what Dave Canales and his group of men have been able to do is incredibly impressive.
When you think about the teams that were asked last year, it's really hard to pick, okay, which one out of those groups of teams has been the most surprising this year, just because there's 5 or 6 of them that are completely different than they were last year. So, and the Panthers being one of them. It's been really good to see the Panthers kind of turn it around, because I've always been a Bryce Young fan. I loved him out of Alabama. I liked him going number 1. I had him going number 1, and he went to the Panthers, and you knew you're going to eat shit last year and the year before. You got to get used to the NFL, and especially as a rookie quarterback. So it took him a little while, but he's finally clicking. He saw it last year, towards the end of last year, where he started getting things down, and Canales and him working together, I think, has been really beneficial. And they got that team rolling. It's not just the offense, but the defense is clicking too. They're getting turnovers. They sealed the game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers with an interception. So that whole team has come to life, and it's exciting. I'm happy for them. I always hate seeing players just get dogged on for really no reason other than their height.
Like you said, one of the most surprising teams this year. They've got a really young team. It's like they've got a really solid head coach, so you've got to wonder where they're going to be in the next 2 to 3 years. Every team has their day. Every dog has their day. You see the Chiefs dynasty kind of fading into the shadows. These new younger teams are going to come to the forefront, so Panthers definitely a team with a super young quarterback, capable quarterback with all of the talent in the world, like you said. He can really take them as far as the pieces that they put around him, so they're definitely going to be someone we keep our eye on. Next, we have, let's get in. I know you can't wait. The Texans versus the Raiders. I know you're super proud of your team after this one. Get the 23-21 dub.
Oh, yeah.
CJ Stroud, 187 yards, 1 touchdown. Defense, they had 3 sacks, 1 interception. Fairbairn, 3 for 3 on the field goals, and you guys are on a 7-game win streak. So I'm assuming you're going to be extremely positive about this one.
Absolutely. We gave up 21 points to the worst offense in the league. Yeah, I'm thrilled. But no, in all honesty, I am happy that we won, so we can continue to control our own destiny to get into the playoffs. Ultimately, what it boils down to for me is seeing kind of the same things that plagued us and hurt us earlier in the year. We have a super bland offense, and Nick Caley, our offensive coordinator, first-year offensive coordinator, got him from the Rams. He has shown some flashes, but mostly he's just been disappointing, and he's been super predictable and just boring. His schemes are boring. He seems to do almost the complete opposite of what you want him to do and what should be done for this offense and for CJ's strengths. CJ's strengths is being under center, rolling play action. And whenever that's working, he just completely goes away from it. So Nick Caley needs to figure it out. Nick Caley, you need to figure it out, because we have the Chargers coming up. We have to go play in L.A., and the Chargers just won a pretty outstanding game. So I'm hoping you can turn it around and get this offense clicking again. Now, defense, on the other hand, I just think they got a little too complacent when you got Geno Smith throwing you balls. It started out pretty good because we got a pick 6, and then after that it kind of just fizzled out. So we were missing a couple key pieces on our defense. So I'm just going to say it was some complacency and missing those key pieces on defense that allowed the worst offense in football to score 21 points.
Like you said, I can't wait to see y'all back on the field next week for that matchup. So we'll see how it goes. I think the last one we're going to touch on here is the Jags versus the Broncos. Jags were able to get the W 34-20. Trevor Lawrence, 23 for 36, 276 yards, 3 touchdowns. Parker Washington, 6 receptions, 145 yards, 1 touchdown. At the end of the day, they end Denver's 11-game win streak. So, huge win for them. What are your thoughts?
That was probably the most surprising game of the week, honestly. I thought Denver was but a lock for a win this past Sunday, especially in Denver. But Trevor Lawrence, Liam Cohen's, he's got that team fighting for each other. They're just at the energy that they're playing for each other and competing at it. It's super impressive. I was really hoping that they would lose so we could take first place in the AFC South, but that didn't happen, so that's disappointing. But what can you say? They're a pretty good football team right now. Stonehenge, man, has that team rolling also. He's like 14 touchdowns the past 3 or 4 games, 0 interceptions, so he's finally becoming what everybody thought he should be and would be coming out of Clemson.
I think Trevor Lawrence is one of the guys, just like Bryce Young, after the first couple seasons didn't go the way it was planned. A lot of people were down on him after all the hype that was put into him. But at the end of the day, you see, once they get the right head coaches in that spot, put the right pieces around them, these guys are extremely serviceable and I think above average in what they do, especially with Trevor Lawrence, what he's been able to do just pulling this team out the mud. And you touched on Liam Cohen, like definitely after that first hiring interview or press conference, I think anyone was picking him to turn this team around in a quick fashion like he has, but he's definitely surprised everyone, especially the critics. This one definitely wasn't in my book.
After that press conference, I for sure thought we had the AFC South on lock. But turns out we don't.
Yeah, man. If y'all lose the conference to Duval, then that's on y'all. There's no excuses.
I'm going to be so sad.
I was just going to say at the end of the day, AFC, the Broncos, Patriots both clinched the playoff spot. Jags are at 99% right now, so they're most likely going to be in there. NFC, the Seahawks, Bears, Eagles, Rams, 49ers have all clinched their playoff spots there. So it's just crazy to see playoff pictures pretty much laid out in the NFC, and then AFC, there's a lot riding on these last 2 games.
It's like we took a few blinks. We're already coming up on week 17 of this football season. So as a football fan and a fanatic, you just can't wait for September to roll around for the new season to start. And then once it's here, it just flies by and it's almost over. So really take in this last month of football. It's the most exciting time of football. The playoffs are here. I'm hoping this next month and a half just goes super slow and we can all enjoy it and just appreciate what football does for everybody, because at the end of the day, yeah, we have our own favorite sports teams and whatnot, but sports as a whole, regardless of what sport it is, it just brings everybody together.
Yeah, man. It's definitely beautiful. And when I'm not cursing myself about the Cowboys, I'm able to enjoy it. So those little pockets in between is where I find my solace. So let's go ahead and get into other topics. Really, we've got one more before the triumphant moment. There was no UFC, nothing till January. So what we will touch on a little bit is Anthony Joshua versus Jake Paul. I know we don't cover a lot of boxing here, but this one is kind of one that bled into mainstream media. So your immediate thoughts on that one?
I'm just thinking Jake Paul, he finally got his lights knocked out. He's done a lot for boxing and the boxing community. Probably the biggest marketeer in boxing. I've already made my stance on boxing. I don't really care for it, so I did enjoy seeing Jake getting his lights knocked out, though. And for people calling him brave, who wouldn't be brave for, $92 million? It was interesting. It was really cool to see the ref tell both fighters, okay, let's stop patting each other on the face and let's go punch each other. So I thought that was good.
Yeah, man. I definitely was super surprised to see it go in round 6. Wasn't expecting that, but Jake Paul was able to move around the ring and pretty much stay out of the way for the bulk of that first 6 rounds. At the end of the day, it kind of ended how you expected. I didn't think his jaw was going to get broken in 2 places. I'm definitely not a Jake Paul hater. Like you said, he's done a lot for the sport. It's brought a lot of eyes to it. At the end of the day, you're not a boxing fan, but you are happy to see him get knocked out. That's what you want as someone who's promoting fights. If they're watching to watch me lose, watching to see me win, at the end of the day, I just care that they're watching. So even if you didn't watch the fight, you watch the clips on the YouTubes, the Instagram, and all that stuff, just puts dollars in his pocket, man. So, I mean, you can't be mad at that. I agree with you. I'll do some crazy stuff for $92 million, but that's a conversation for another time. There's pretty much not much more to say on that besides, $92 million. That's a win for both parties. So how can you be mad? I'll take a broken jaw for that any day of the week. All right, man, let's get into the triumphant moment. What do you got for us this week?
My triumphant moment. As soon as I saw this happen, I was like, this can be my triumphant moment. But it was earlier in the football week, so I was like, let's just play it out. Let's see if there's anything better than this, especially as a story you can come up with for our triumphant moment. But there was nothing that could really top it, in my opinion. I'm talking about Malachi Toney. This is a true freshman wide receiver for Miami, and he had a critical mistake late in the fourth quarter against Texas A&M. He had a fumble and super beat up and tore up about it. You could see him on the sidelines with his teammates. His teammates are trying to encourage him and lift him up and really give him a positive talk to. So I'm assuming that lit something under him, because not so long after he scored an 11-yard touchdown on a jet. So that was a really good moment for him, because he just seems like a really good kid. He had a lot of positive talk after the game. It just goes to show that Mario Cristobal had really built a strong foundation in that facility and a strong foundation in that team. A positive culture, positive environment. They're all wanting to fight for each other. They're all wanting to play for each other. So as a true freshman, you make a big mistake like that at the end of the game. It's probably really easy to just let that control you and let that take you over. But that wasn't the case for Toney. He made amends for his mistake by scoring that go-ahead touchdown, and that was really all that Miami needed to pull away with that victory.
Yeah, man, I love it. Like you said, it takes some serious resolve to be able to overcome stakes, not only in a couple days, but in the next couple possessions, for him to turn that around and make that big play for his team. Definitely takes some resolve, like I said, and guts, and triumphant will, and he definitely showed that in that game. So it's good stuff. I'm gonna go ahead and go with the mainstream opinion here. I didn't give it to him last week, but I'm going to go ahead and give it to him this week. I'm going to have to go with Phillip Rivers. Last night, ultimately they lost 48-27. But for him at 44, after 5 years retired, to be able to do what he's done. In this game alone, he did 23 for 35, 277 yards, 2 touchdowns. He did have 1 interception, but just be able to keep him in that game for the bulk of that game and to make the plays that he did, you'd like to think. I know they were down, I think, their 2 best corners, but he scored 27 points in a game after you're 5 years retired. You're hoping your defenses can make those plays. Ultimately, they weren't even close, as a 49er scored 48 points, but just be able to do what he did. And it's going to be really interesting to see how he's able to finish out these last 2 games. But just the triumph, the will, everything it takes to, after 5 years, to just be like, fuck it, and just go for it. And the first 2 games didn't end up how he wanted, but just to be out there, be willing to get hit again, and just step in pretty much where you left off is incredible to me.
Yeah, just the precedent that sets when millions of kids will see not just the team that he coaches back home, but how many kids can see him on TV. He hasn't played for 5 years. He's 44. He's coming back, and he actually threw it farther than 10 yards this time. So just the resolve that has. He could have come in and really sucked. He hasn't played too bad. But just the fact that he came back, took that risk, and now looking forwards to these last 2 games of the season, seeing his resolve in those 2 games, because the Colts are pretty much out of the playoffs now. I think they have like a 3% chance or something. So he's probably done for sure, I would assume, after this season, after these last 2 games. So to see him go out there and sling it, not have any regrets, because that took a lot to come back, and it's a big risk, and it's showing a triumphant moment and a triumphant time in his life, and it's a good example for everybody else. So yeah, I love that.
Yeah, man, I think that's it. Why don't you go ahead and close this out?
All right. We'll see y'all next week.